Here's episode 2 of Tucker Carlson on Twitter. Came out with the 8th of June, a few days ago, at the making of this video. I didn't realize he had already put out another video. I've been waiting. Let's see how crazy he gets this time around.
Hey, it's Tucker Carlson. Let's say you wanted to control a country. How would you start? Well, you'd want to make sure you had the complete obedience of everybody inside your borders who was authorized to use deadly force. You would start with the military and then federal law enforcement, then move your way down ultimately to agencies like the IRS. Controlling the guns would be a top priority for you if you ever wanted to go dictatorial, if you wanted to be baby doc. But let's say you had deeper ambitions. Let's say you wanted the power not simply to control people's behavior, but to control how they think, not just their bodies, but their minds, as a god would.
As a god would, wow, what is he talking about here? He's honest. Does he honestly think like the government has total control over people's minds and body? Because this is freaking hilarious coming from a dude who uh, lies to manipulate people's thoughts.
In that case, you need to take charge of the society's taboos. A taboo is something that by popular consensus is not allowed. A taboo may not be illegal, but it doesn't need to be. Over time, social prohibitions are more powerful and more enduring than laws. Societies are defined by what they will not permit, as are famously religions. Muslims don't eat pork, neither do Orthodox Jews. Traditional Christians oppose extramarital sex. The Amish avoid electricity, and so on. American society isn't overtly religious, but it's governed by taboos, and it always has been. What's interesting is how fast our taboos are changing. This is not happening organically. What we're allowed to
It's Wow, it's not happening. Okay, so I assume he's going to be talking about like LGBTQ people and how there is some kind of secret group working to convince everybody to accept these people when, it's just them fighting for their own acceptance, just like how it's always happened in the United States, where people had to fight to be accepted in society.
dislike is being dictated to us from above, sometimes by force. Until fairly recently, for example, it was taboo in this country to attack people on the basis of their race. That was the main lesson of the Second World War, we were told again and again.
Yeah, because it was bad to attack people based on their race. There's been several fights and wars and stuff over that kind of behavior.
The one thing we learned from the Nazis is that it's dangerous to reduce human beings to their genetic code. There is no master race. That made sense, but apparently we no longer believe it. Punishing people based on their skin color is not only permitted in modern America, it is mandatory throughout business and government and higher education.
No, it's not. What are you talking about? Oh, don't tell me this is another. Oh, maybe I'm wrong about my first prediction. Don't tell me this is like a white replacement BS conspiracy.
As long as the victims are white. At one time, that would have been unimaginable. So with the current behavior of our politicians. As recently as the 1992 presidential campaign, adultery was considered disqualifying for anyone seeking higher office.
Which it shouldn't be because how does that just doesn't make any I mean, if the presidents are using their authority to like sexually assault people, yeah, remove them. But if people are just having extramarital affairs and then like decide to become president, like like that has no effect on like their ability to govern.
Bill Clinton was very nearly derailed in the New Hampshire primary by his affair with Jennifer Flowers. Clinton went to elaborate lengths to lie about the relationship because he had no choice. But he was the last presidential candidate who had to meet this standard. By 2008, it was obvious to anybody who was paying attention that Barack Obama had a strange and highly creepy personal life. Yet nobody ever asked him about it. By that point, a leader's behavior within his own marriage, the core relationship of his life, had been declared irrelevant. It was Barack Obama's business, not
Yeah, coming from the dude who doesn't care that Trump, the guy he supported for quite a while before coming out and admitting that he thinks, Trump is an evil demon, supported Trump even though Trump, cheated on all his wives and had various extramarital affairs.
yours. One by one, with increasing speed, our old taboos have been struck down. Those that remain have lost their moral force. Stealing, flaunting your wealth, striking women.
Stealing, I mean, I don't care about stealing. If you need to steal in order to survive, flaunting your wealth, that's funny because Tucker Carlson doesn't care if rich people flaunt their wealth. He loves that. He's a rich kid. And the third thing you just mentioned, I don't remember and I don't care.
Smoking marijuana on the street.
Smoking marijuana on the street is the best thing in the world.
Shameless public hypocrisy. Taking other people's money for not working.
Wait, is he talking about landlords here taking people's money for not working, or other fucking rich people who takes people's money when they don't do jack?
All of these things used to be considered unacceptable in America, not anymore. So it probably shouldn't surprise us that the greatest taboo of all is teetering on the edge of acceptability: child molestation. A generation ago, talking to someone else's children about sex was widely considered grounds for a thrashing.
Okay, so yeah, my first prediction was correct. He's gonna speak against LGBTQ people. This is funny. Uh, the To Catch a Predator show. You never saw a trans person get caught. The Catholic Church. You don't ever see a trans person doing anything. Uh, People on the right. They always talk about protecting forced child marriage laws and stuff. Yet they want to act like they are not the actual child predators.
Touching them sexually was effectively a death penalty offense. When Jeffrey Dahmer was bludgeoned to death in the bathroom of a Wisconsin prison in 1994, the Milwaukee District Attorney had to caution the public not to turn Dahmer's killer into a folk hero. Jeffrey Dahmer had molested and murdered children. People felt justified in celebrating his death. 25 years later, that standard had changed dramatically in the state of Wisconsin, as in the rest of the country. In the summer of 2020, during the BLM riots in Kenosha, 17-year-old Kyle Rittenhouse defended his life from a convicted child molester called Joseph Rosenbaum.
This is hilarious. Dude may have been a predator, but it's not like uh, Kyle knew that at the time. That's not why he was shooting people. He was shooting people because he wanted to shoot people at a BLM riot.
Rosenbaum was trying to kill Rittenhouse, so Rittenhouse shot him in self-defense. But it was Joseph Rosenbaum whom the media cast as the victim of the story. Kyle Rittenhouse, meanwhile, an underage boy fending off violence from a child molester.
Yeah, an underage kid who went to a place where he shouldn't have been with a weapon he shouldn't have had, using it because he wanted to shoot people. Uh, the entire thing started with somebody throwing a bag at him, and he started shooting people.
Was denounced as the villain. Ultimately, he was indicted for murder. One of the things that this tells us is the people who run our country no longer see child molesters as the worst among us. It's never been more obvious than it was yesterday when the Wall Street Journal.
This is also funny coming from a dude who supports Trump, a guy who was known to have been friends with Jeffrey Epstein and went to his island. And we all know about Jeffrey Epstein. He was also friends with Maxine Glasswell, or whatever her last name is.
Ran a long expose about kiddie porn on Instagram. Instagram, the journal found, quote, helps connect and promote a vast network of accounts openly devoted to the commission and purchase of underage sex content. Instagram connects pedophiles and connects them to content sellers of child pornography.
Really? Instagram? Because you can easily get banned for anything on Instagram. It's a whole lot more strict than Facebook.
In one instance, the paper discovered that Instagram was recommending the phrase incest toddlers to users who'd expressed interest in similar material. By the way, no one at Instagram denied that any of this had happened, nor did Mark Zuckerberg, who controls the company. The journal story was accurate. It was all pretty shocking, but not as shocking as what happened next, which was effectively nothing at all. The largest circulation newspaper in the United States revealed that one of the world's most influential companies was promoting pedophilia, and nobody in power did anything about it. The Justice Department did not announce an investigation. Congress did not schedule hearings. The guy who runs Instagram, Adam Mosseri, still has his job.
So, I mean, if Tucker Carlson is so against, child predators, why doesn't he ever speak about, Matt Gaetz, the Republican guy who was caught, you know, buying teenage prostitutes? It's funny how right-wingers claim to hate, child predators and then still support Matt Gaetz, and how he's still a congressional member and hasn't been, put in prison. Like what's going on here? How is this guy still walking the streets?
In fact, Mosseri's last tweet, which is pinned, is a video of himself bragging about how effective Instagram's algorithm is. Keep in mind as you watch this, it's real.
People often talk about the algorithm, but there is no one algorithm for Instagram. There are many algorithms and ranking processes we use to try to personalize the experience to make it as interesting as we can for each and every person who uses Instagram. We believe in this idea of personalization. What you're interested in.
Okay, this is no different than a lot of other social media sites where their algorithm personalizes what you see based on what you like and what you most interact with.
And what I'm interested in is different, and so therefore your Instagram and my Instagram should be different.
What you're interested in and what I'm interested in is different, Mosseri explains patiently.
Yeah, Twitter does that. The Facebook does that. Reddit does that. Tumblr does that. It's a way to help increase engagement for the social site because the algorithm will then show you or recommend you videos and stuff that you previously liked, which means you may like this video, so here, watch it. It's like he's trying to make a conspiracy out of something that doesn't exist.
Your Instagram feed will be different from mine. You're interested in children, that's why you're getting all the incest toddler posts. It's a highly personalized experience.
But where's the proof that that is actually happening? All he did was show a clip of a guy talking about how an algorithm works.
That tweet is still up tonight. Of course, everybody at Instagram, in fact, everyone everywhere in authority, will still claim to think that child molestation is bad, but the tone has changed unmistakably. When they say it's bad, they mean it in a kind of abstract way. Bad like a civil war in Central Africa is bad. You wouldn't prefer it, but there are reasons it happens.
Nobody ever says that. He is freaking crazy.
That's why we now refer to pedophiles as minor attracted persons, because honestly, who can judge?
No, that is what they call themselves. Nobody else accepts that idea whatsoever.
These people are a sexual minority, so pause before you attack them. And in any case, it's not like pedophiles are barging into the Capitol building to sit in Nancy Pelosi's chair or asking uncomfortable questions about the last election.
Wow, that's a weird segue to the January 6th attackers.
For miscreants like that, no punishment is too harsh. So far this month, the FBI's Washington field office has issued 11 press releases. 10 out of 11 have been about January 6th. Keep in mind that January 6th happened more than 2.5 years ago.
So what? They're still having cases about them, which is why it's still relevant.
Now you know why the feds were ignoring kid touchers on Instagram. They're too busy to respond.
Well, man, this entire video is so freaking hilarious. Though being that he's on Twitter and Musk is allowing him to say whatever he wants, this is why he's getting so crazy compared to being on Fox.
They've got much more important things to do, like finding white supremacists. White supremacists are America's new child molesters. We've got zero tolerance for white supremacists because
Wow, white supremacists are the new child molesters. Like, okay, so he supposedly hates child molesters. So I don't even know what he's trying to get out here.
no one threatens the life of this country more than they do. Here's Joe Biden once again making that very clear last month.
To stand up against the poison of white supremacy, as I did my inaugural address, to single out as the most dangerous terrorist threat to our homeland is white supremacy.
So is he trying to say that it's bad that we're considering white supremacists as bad as child molesters and that we shouldn't? I mean, I don't really get what Tucker Carlson is trying to say here.
And I'm not saying this because I'm at a black HBCU. I say it wherever I go.
Pardon the feedback, but you heard the point. White supremacy is the most dangerous threat to the American homeland. Joe Biden just told us that. It's more dangerous than the threat of nuclear war with Russia. It's more dangerous than the threat of the Mexican drug cartels, who've already killed hundreds of thousands of Americans and are now in control of swaths of our southwestern states.
Wait, so he doesn't want nuclear war with Russia, even though he supports Putin and like everything he does? Like that that was a really weird point that he brought up.
White supremacy is that bad, Joe Biden says. In fact, it's worse. But what is it? That's the question. Can anyone in authority actually define white supremacy? What is it? Is white supremacy liking white people too much? If so, that's going to put those of us.
Well, no, white supremacy has been defined. It is the belief that white people are superior than other people. So this idea that nobody has ever defined like white supremacy and stuff like that is pretty ridiculous.
Us with white children in a pretty tough spot? Or is white supremacy something much more obviously bad, like trying to expel all non-whites from America and creating some kind of ethno-state?
Yeah, that is another part of white supremacy. Expelling anybody that isn't considered white and creating a white ethno state. Uh, Tucker Carlson knows what white supremacy is. He spouts it all the time, especially when he talks about the white or the great replacement BS that he was talking about on Fox News. Man, this dude, he just pretends to be like ignorant or like just like finding out about something or like doesn't understand something. It is just his way of just not like taking total responsibility for like the things he says.
If that's Joe Biden's definition, what exactly is the scope of this threat?
That wasn't even his definition. If that's Joe Biden's definition, if though, if it's this way or if it's that way, what are we gonna do if this hypothetical thing happens? Like blah blah blah. It's always just a bunch of questions, but he knows his audience already like believes this stuff, so he forms it in such a way that he can pretend that he's not like actually believing this stuff.
How many people are currently working on this American white ethno-state project? And what are the chances they're going to pull it off? Our guess is not very many and precisely zero. But we can't say for sure because no one has showed us the numbers. These are not rhetorical questions. When the President of the United States describes something as the worst possible crime Americans can commit, you have a right to know what that crime is.
Yeah, being a Nazi is like definitely one of the worst crimes you can commit. I mean, there's a lot of very bad crimes you commit, murder, rape, um, sexual assault and stuff, but being a Nazi is a pretty bad crime as well. That's why we had a war against Nazis.
You used to have that right. Under our pre-revolutionary legal code before George Floyd, questions like these were easy to answer. A crime was defined as something that an elected legislature had explicitly banned, usually an act that hurt somebody else. In America, crimes...
Well, no, not all laws are just banning things that hurt other people. Like, smoking cannabis doesn't hurt other people, but that was banned. Jaywalking doesn't hurt other people, but that was also banned.
were described precisely with words in English and then preserved in books, which you could read yourself. If you ever wondered whether you were committing a crime, you could just look it up. You could know for sure whether you were a criminal. Now you can't. And needless to say, that's the point.
Nah, you still can do that.
The point of the exercise is to keep you off balance, to keep you afraid. When no one's willing to define the offense, you can't be sure whether or not you're committing it. You could be accused at any time and everything you have taken from you. You live in fear.
God, it's just so hilarious how crazy Tucker Carlson is, and he's gotten slightly crazier since leaving Fox News and getting on to Twitter. I can't wait to see his other episodes because it's just gonna be a deep dive into how crazy he can get.
Remember this guy?
Emmanuel Cafferty was driving near a Black Lives Matter protest in Poway in his SDG&E truck when he says he noticed somebody following him and trying to get his attention. Later, that person posted a picture of him making what some believed is a white supremacy symbol on Twitter. Cafferty says he had no idea about any white power symbols and was just cracking his knuckles outside his window when the picture
I don't know, this is just funny.
was taken of him. Later that day, he says he was notified by SDG&E that he would be suspended pending an investigation, and a few days later, he was fired.
What that man did was so offensive, as you just saw, that local news had to blur the photograph of his hand. He was fired from his job. His life was destroyed for cracking his knuckles. He didn't know
I think it's funny that this is the end of his little segment about a guy getting fired for being racist, and Tucker Carlson was fired. I mean, he wasn't for being racist, but he seems to be slightly honest about being fired and losing his job.
cracking his knuckles was racist in his defense, but then nobody did until the day that poor Emmanuel Cafferty was unwise enough to crack them. When a crime has no definition, anyone can be guilty of it. It's hard to relax in a country like that. The old system was better. Government operated on the basis of laws, not amorphous moral terror.
That's a lie, to be honest. A lot of our laws are based upon people's moral ideas. I mean, look at drug laws. That was all on the basis of people's moral ideas that various people are immoral because they use drugs. So we got to stop them from using drugs so that these people can be more moral.
Politicians couldn't accuse you of something they couldn't define. The legal code was straightforward. Child molestation was a crime. Having unfashionable opinions was not.
Yeah, child molestation is still a crime. I don't know. Tucker Carlson is just making up a bunch of lies. There's nowhere on the books where it says, well, unless you go to some red states where they have forced child marriage laws, where, like in Missouri, a 12-year-old can be forced to marry somebody, and that is legal.
Outside of the public sphere, the population mostly governed itself, as it does in every society, and used taboos to do it. You knew what was allowed and what wasn't because the rules didn't change very often. The taboos were organic. They derived from collective experience and instinct, the two most reliable guides to life. They evolved for a reason. They still do.
Oh, wait, is Tucker Carlson claiming he believes in evolution? Wow, so is he starting to believe in science instead of religion?
Our job at this point is to protect them, despite the hectoring, the nonstop hectoring from the people in charge. You know the outlines of right and wrong. You were born knowing them. So don't let them.
You're born knowing right and wrong? No, nobody's born knowing right and wrong. People grow up learning what is right and wrong.
Talk you out of what you can smell. Don't let them rationalize away your
Talk you out of what you can smell? Is Tucker Carlson saying he can smell what is right and wrong, and other people can do that? And that people are trying to talk you out of what you can smell that is right and wrong? Kind of funny there.
intuitive moral sense. Cling to your taboos like your life depends on them, because it does. Cherish and protect them like family heirlooms. That's exactly what they are.
I don't know, he's so weird. That's all I can say about him. Like, listening to right wingers is just so weird.